is we have the existing U.S. business database. Now this database here is updated on a monthly basis. As you can see in the little blurb here about the U.S. business database, it's in the industry that telephone verifies the business records to ensure that they're as accurate as possible. We have a call center here in Papillion, Nebraska that makes about 24 million calls a year reaching out to businesses to ensure that the data that we can acquire as far as like contact names, main line of business, how many employees they are, that information and address and company name obviously are as accurate as possible. Next database we have the U.S. New Business Database. Now this is a great resource for somebody that is interested in trying to find new clients, or they want to do a study to see how many new businesses are particularly opening up in a specific area. This database here is updated on a weekly basis. Now the data in here is also, it's very raw, very basic, because how we acquire a majority of this is through business license filings and utilities connects. There are other sources that they go through to compile this data to acquire it, but this data is also unverified too. We have people that may have applied for a business license and maybe they didn't get approved for a business loan to get everything started up, or they're still in the process of getting their building built to have a brick and mortar corporate location. So this gives you the opportunity in a small business capacity to be the first one in the door, to be able to offer your products and services. Next database we have available for you is the U.S. Healthcare Database. This database here is updated on a monthly basis. This gives you the ability to target physicians, surgeons, dentists, and be able to target by a specific specialty. Again, updated on a monthly basis. We have a Canadian business database, which again, updated on a monthly basis. We have the U.S. Historical Database. This is for somebody that's interested in doing a study on how a particular area is growing or shrinking. Great resource to be able to take a look at a business over time, how it's changed, contacts have changed, owners have changed. Very good resource if you're doing some studies. We also do have residential databases available. Now the U.S. Standard White Pages database is updated on a monthly basis. There's also one of only about 21 companies nationwide that has a full license to the USPS National Change of Address database in their full file to make sure that the mailing addresses in here are as accurate as possible. If you're looking to use this database for any type of marketing purpose, because the telephone numbers in here are not scrubbed against the National Do Not Call Registry. We have the U.S. Consumer and Lifestyles database, again updated on a monthly basis. The information in here is for if you're doing studies on what people's particular hobbies and interests in a particular area is. You can get the what's that they are interested in, but unfortunately due to privacy rules, you can't get the who's. U.S. New Movers and New Homeowners, updated on a weekly basis, gives you the ability again to see who's moving into your area. Also can be used for a marketing purpose if you're trying to reach out to people who are just moving into an area for instance, security systems, lawn care. A lot of different abilities that you can use to be able to use this as a marketing tool. We do have a Canadian White Pages database. Just keep in mind, Canada's marketing rules are a lot different than the U.S. They're a little bit more stringent, so you want to make sure that if you market to Canadian consumers, you follow all those guidelines. Databases we're going to be focusing on today, we're going to use the U.S. Business Database. We're going to use the U.S. New Business. We will also take a look at U.S. Standard White Pages database. We're going to start out with the U.S. Business Database. To start this off, it's just a single click on the search button, and you have two different options. If you happen to have a particular company name, or you have a phone number, or a contact name, you can use the quick lookup and find to do a reverse lookup to pull this information up. Again, if another use for this application, somebody is a small business owner and they are trying to target other customers like their best customer. They can put in their best customer's company name and phone number, search that company to be able to get more information from the detailed profiles, which we'll get to take a look at here shortly, to learn exactly how to target more companies exactly like their best customer so they continue to grow their business and be successful. Next option you have is an advanced search, which is going to give you all your search options over on the left-hand navigation here. Now, anytime you start a search, it gives you the option of 3 different types of data. The verified is going to be the phone verified and quality check. Those, if you're using it for a marketing purpose, I highly recommend always using verified businesses. You can still use unverified. What that means is we went through our other sources to compile this data to make it as accurate as possible, but we hadn't been able to telephone verify it yet. Also, if somebody's looking to do a study on the current database of who's went out of business or businesses that are just closing in their area, you have that ability to target by this option also. Where we're going to start, again, you can see you have the ability company name like on the quick search, or executive name, title, gender, ethnicity. You can target by that. We're going to start with the keyword. This way you can either target by using SIC codes, which it defaults to. You can make sure that you're searching that as only a primary line. You have that ability to bubble that here. You can type in SICs if you happen to know those in either a 2, 4, or 6-digit form down in these boxes, but we're going to use a keyword. We're going to use the example also. We're going to use restaurants. So we'll go through, we'll type that in. You can either hit enter or single click on search, and it'll bring up your box. Now the nice thing about this, when you pull up your keyword, it also gives you the 6-digit SIC code that applies to that particular keyword you're looking for. So if you happen to not know what that SIC is, this is a great way to be able to find it by using the keyword. We want to target restaurants here, so we just single click, move that into the selected box at the bottom here. Anytime you make a selection from something you add on the left-hand navigation, I highly recommend that you use the update count button. Reason why, if you go through, you put in a lot of criteria to really refine your list, and you end up coming up with a 0 count. If you're updating your count as you're going through, you'll see exactly which data element that you selected or criteria that caused your count to go to 0. So you can maybe make the change and maybe refine that search option a little bit better. There's a major industry group that lets you target by 2- and 4-digit SICs. We'll use this when we get into the new business database, so you'll be able to see how that functions. Next step we're going to add is going to be our geography. Now the nice thing about geo, you have a lot of different options. You can target by telephone area codes. You can do a map-based search, which is going to be the functionality we're going to use. Target by city, state, metro area, zip codes, a radius around an address or zip. You can do a county search if you happen to have census tract information. You have that ability to target by census tract. Street address, so if you want to know every company on a particular street or a particular street address, you can target right here, or target by neighborhood. Like I said, we're going to use the map-based search. And anytime you make a selection over here on the left-hand navigation, it builds onto your search criteria over here on the right. Just adds it right to the bottom there. Whether or not you know it on a daily basis, we actually power 95% of your local search engines. So Yahoo, Bing, Google, we provide them with the data for point of interest or GPS data. We also give them information to enhance the profiles or information they have about particular businesses. So we go through, you get to click on the open map, just single click. This brings up a Google Map option for you, where you have the ability where you can target by a particular area. You can draw a shape, define a radius, or use boundary select. I'll show you how to use these 3 functions here. And I'm going to zoom into my local area, Omaha, Nebraska. So you just type that in. You can hit enter or you can click go. And as you can see there, it zooms in to the Omaha area. say we want to know this particular area, how many restaurants are within this exact shape. Well, how do we define that? We use the draw shape option. Click on this, and you can just single click, and it plots your points. So we're going to try to define this shape and make it as accurate as possible for you. So as you can see here, it's just single click that plots your points. Now when you want to close this shape out, say you've got it defined exactly how you want it, just double click, and it tells you how many restaurants or whatever you're searching for at that point are within that exact shape you're looking for. So we have 68 restaurants within that shape. Now I want to know how many restaurants are in a 2-mile radius of the Benson area. So I can click on this define a radius option. Now as you can see, it has instructions of what you do. Just click, hold the mouse button down, and extend that radius area. We're going to go as close to 2 miles as possible. So as you extend out, you can see over on the right, it tells you how far your radius is expanded at that point. So when you get it right where you want it, just go ahead, release the mouse button, locks it in, tells you have 126 restaurants within that 2-mile radius of the Benson area. Last thing we're going to take a look at is boundary select. This is a pretty neat option just for the fact that if you're targeting nationwide, you can break it down so you see an overlay of states. If you're looking for areas that are pretty dense with area codes, for example, Florida, Texas, California. If you're looking at that state, you can use this option, and it'll break down a map over the top, which you'll see here shortly when we do zip codes of the area for the particular area codes. You can target by metro areas, counties, cities, carrier route information, or neighborhoods. Like I said, we're going to use zip codes here. So you go ahead, you click on this, just single click. As you see, you get an overlay of all the zip codes in that particular city that you're looking at. I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick 4 of these zip codes to define the areas that we want to target to find our restaurants. So we'll look in the Midtown area here, just a single click, and as you notice when you click, it gives you your zip code and the number of restaurants within that particular zip code. I'm going to add one more here. So as you can see again, it tells you exactly how many restaurants per zip code, and then you have a total up here at the top. Nice thing about this, when you're completed, you're ready to go, you hit done, use this functionality, it automatically updates your count, so you don't have to use the update the count button. Just to go over the rest of the criteria, you have the ability to target by companies with a toll-free number or fax number. Say I'm a small business owner, and my niche for providing products and services to restaurants is companies that have between 1 to 19 employees. So I can target by this, brings it up at the bottom here. You have 2 options. You can either single click in each one of these and move them over to the selected, or you can click, hold your mouse button, drag it down, and move those over to the selected box over on the right. Going to go ahead and update our count. We got 174 that fit our criteria. If you target by a specific sales volume, there are options here. If you want either public or privately traded companies, you have that ability here. Headquarters, branches, single locations, or subsidiaries of a branch, you have that ability to break that down with this option right here. If they have a foreign parent, you have that ability to target there. If they have a home-based business or it's a government office. If they happen to be on the stock exchange, you can target the stock exchange you want to look for or their particular ticker symbol to find that company. Credit rating, I'll explain that more when we get into the full profile of the business. Also, I'll explain the business expenditures within there, but these are other options you can target by. If you're a web design company and you're looking for companies that don't have a website, you have the ability to target that here. But for our example, because we want to know more information, we're going to use the only companies with a website option. Social site links, we have the ability to target by 4 social media sites. I'll explain this a little bit more when we get into the in-depth profiles. If you're looking for Fortune 1000 companies, the size of their yellow page ad, the years in database and year established, those are pretty similar because the way we go through to acquire our data, these are normally pretty close, if not spot on. With square footage, say you have a cleaning company and you target by the square footage of a building. You have that ability to use this functionality to check for those particular records there. Now let me explain professionals. This is always a question that pops up about the all-in-one. Say you have a law firm, or you have a dentist's office, or a doctor's office. There are multiple people within those locations, but they're listed in the phone book most of the time as a separate entity. Well, with this ability here, you can either target everybody in a specific office, or if you only want one contact to send a mailer out to, or try to call to that particular person, you have that ability to limit that, so you're either making one attempt, or you can get everybody that's tied to that particular office. Because what we do with all of our business records is we apply what's called an ID number, or an ABI number. That is unique for every business. So if you have John Smith and Doug Jones, and they're within the same law firm, and you want to get all of them, they have the same ABI because they're with the same company. So we'd be able to do the all and get both those people listed when you're doing a particular search. Then you have the ability to omit the keywords or specific geography to make sure that you're not pulling in a particular area if you're running a search. We're going to go ahead and view our results. This is going to take you to a summary page. On the summary, this is a pretty unique page because what it does is it gives you the ability where you can see the company name, the contact name if we have that available, also the address information, phone number, but it has this last column here. And this last column is one that you can change to see different data elements. I'm going to go ahead and take you to take a look at the corporate trees, but I want to show you what else we have the ability to look at. You can change this column to say you're looking at verified and unverified records. You want to know which one you're reaching out to. You can select this column to show that information. Title is what we're going to change to after we look at the corporate tree to see how people are listed. You can target by employee size and sales volume also. It's kind of a column that you can change and see the information you want to see. Now with the corporate tree, you just click on this icon here. It's a single click. And for Burger King is our example here. It gives you the parent company, and it gives you a legend up here to be able to tell exactly what each of these mean. If it's a private company, public company, a subsidiary of a U.S. parent or a foreign parent, or if it's a branch. So the parent company for Burger King is going to be Burger King Worldwide, Inc. The subsidiary underneath that parent is going to be Burger King Corp. Then you have the branches that are tied to this main subsidiary. And as you go down, you can see there is another subsidiary, so it could be another franchise, and that's the company named Burger King Holdings, Inc. And then there'll be the branches that are attached to that location too. Go back to our search here, change our column here to title. That's going to give you the listings. Now, when we acquire either the contact name or the title, this is something we do when we do the telephone verification. Now let's look at an in-depth profile on a particular company. We're going to take a look at California Taco here. Now when you go into the in-depth profile, it's going to be broken down into specific sections. Now location information, obviously, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's going to give you the address, phone number, fax if available, or toll-free number if they happen to have one. Then it's also going to have an active link to their website. Like I said, you want to learn more information. Say you're a small business owner and you're trying to market. Say you sell, restaurant equipment, utensils, and different types of condiments and things like that. You want to reach out to this company. You want to learn a little bit more about who they are. Check their website out. Always a great resource. Go to their website, find a little bit more about them. Again, another resource for this, as you can see there, they have a link to their Google Plus or their Facebook page. Then again, social media links, the ones we compile and try to gather information on so you can have an active link to their pages. Yes, we have Facebook, Google Plus, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Again, if they do have any job postings that are with Indeed.com, those will be listed here. Again, when I was talking about earlier, you're a small business owner and you're trying to find more companies like your best customer. These next two sections are going to be important to you. You're not quite sure exactly how they're listed in our database, so look down here in the industry profile. Gives you the 6-digit SIC. Just remember when you're typing in SIC codes, if you see it with a dash here, just do it a straight 6-digit without the dash. If you put a dash in there, it's going to be defining and looking for a range instead of the exact SIC you're looking for. Again, NAICS code's listed here if you happen to want to target by NAICS. As you can see, they're a little bit different. Yeah, they both have restaurant, but this specific NAICS here tells you it's a full-service restaurant. If they have a franchise code or that available, that's going to be here. If a company provides us with a business profile, tells us a little bit about who they are, when they were established, what exactly they do or offer. If they provide that information, we apply that here for them. Next section, again, this company has 13 employees. They have a sales volume of $665,000 a year. It's a single location, privately held company. They've been in business, or they've been in our database for 22 years, which is 99% of the time it's pretty close to that exact number when they were established. Again, here's your square footage. Here's the ID number I talked about that we give to each one of our companies that we have their information. Credit rating score. This is something I told you I explained more when we got in the profile. Our credit rating scores are not something that you should use for end-all be-all if you want to extend credit. Say you want to, for Cali Taco, your new company, they need to upgrade maybe their fryers or maybe an oven in the back, and you provide that type of equipment for them. You know, it's a pretty expensive thing. They don't have, you know, the funds to be able to just dole that out and say, hey, give me all that. They want credit to be able to pay that stuff off gradually over time. Well, how we compile our credit rating scores, it's going to be based off number of years they've been in business, number of employees, stability of the industry. It's not really going to be anything that you would really want to base this off of, because you could have a company that's only been in business for a year. They have 7 employees. Their sales volume might be a little bit better than Cali Tacos, but because of those factors right there, that credit rating might be a D or a C. It might be lower. Doesn't mean that they can't pay their bills. Just means they haven't been in the database long enough, or they might be in an industry that's not stable enough that we haven't deemed it to give them a higher code. If you want to be able to go through and get an exact credit report, that's why we have the option that you can click here and get a full report from Experian. Next thing, management directory. This is going to give you if any people are additionally listed. When we do our telephone verification or use our sources, we're going to be able to get that information here for you. Here's another valuable resource. If company news, have good talking points. You know, show that you're interested. Hey, I just seen a great review that you had on your business on TripAdvisor.com. I just seen a great story about your business on Yahoo Local. You know, these are other talking points. Gives you the ability to go to that page and get a preview of that story. Stock exchange data, if available, that will be here. Their ticker symbol and the exchange they're traded on. Business expenditures. This is another point I said I would go over when we got into the Indepth profile. We acquire a lot of this information from the annual reports, the business census that is ran Uh, and when we go through, we get a lot of companies where we get the actual data, how much they're spending on these different bills throughout their company. So if we don't have that information on a company, how do we fill this in? Well, what we do is we'll model that data. Say we have 10 companies within, for example, in the same area. They have the same exact employee size, same sales volume. They've been in business for, the same amount of time or the same type of industry. We look at those companies, factor this in, how much they're spending on accounting, payroll, rent, technology. Then we'll go through. If they all pretty much match up, we take that average, and then we will model that data there for you. And these numbers here, sometimes they could be way off. I'm not going to tell you they're going to be 100% perfect, but sometimes they're going to be real close, especially if we have the factual data. For historical information, you see Cali Taco here. They started out when we started compiling historical for this system here, 2003. They were only making $280,000 a year. As you can see, over time, they had a little slump, but they're up and they're stable. And right there, you're showing 2016, they were at about $500,000 a year for sales volume. Employee size, started out small, had about 7 employees, went to 8 here. We're pretty stable with that. Business started picking up, needed more people, till current, sent about 13 employees since 2014. So this would be a good growing business. Business history, this is going to be who's owned that or been the main contact for that company since 2003. Brad's been lucky enough. He's been with this company for a long time. He's been the owner. Down here, if there are any Twitter feeds available, you have that ability to click on that and go to those links on Twitter and take a look at those feeds. We do have UCC and public filing information that you can take a look at how it was filed or what it was filed for. If you're a small business owner, again, this is a useful tool for your nearby businesses. This is going to give you the ability, if I'm out making an appointment to talk to people at California Taco, I want to reach out to these other companies or businesses in the area to maximize my time out of the office because they might benefit from my products and services also. Another thing, competitors report. This is going to be companies exactly like, same industry and everything as Cali Taco within that particular area. So say you were successful in selling California Taco here, your products and services, and you want to reach out to other companies in that area to possibly be able to extend that. This is another resource for doing so. One of the other things you can do with this is if you're on your main list, you have the ability to download this information. The average most of the time is between 25 and 250. Some could be less, some could be more than 250. But I want to go through and I want to get this entire list of companies. I want to take it, I want to work this list for marketing purposes. I can go through, I can click on the link to download it. I can select the type of file I want to download it as. I can do summary information or detailed information, or I can select custom fields of only data that's important to me, and then I can either download it to an Excel file or I can email the records directly to myself. Now right now we currently don't have the ability to go into the Indepth profile and email that record to yourself. That's something that they're building for the future, so you'll be able to do that here in the not too distant future. You have the ability to print these too. Again, prints are going to be dependent on how it's set up, summary, or the detailed records. There's going to be a limit on details because those are going to print out more pages. So say you have a 250 print limit, it's going to be 250 pages. Well, a detailed page, sometimes it's going to print out 2 to 3 pages per if you want all that information. You want a summary, you click the print, goes to a PDF for you. Once it forms that PDF, you can click on the Open PDF button, and it gives you that list right there where you can print off this. Now this just being the summary is going to be the same thing basically that you've seen on that main list page. Just company name, contact name, address, and phone number. You can close these out pretty easily. Go back to our search. And as you can see, it's pretty simple on how to go through and generate a list. Just remember, any selections you make on the left-hand navigation, update your count so you can see how the criteria you add affects your list. And if you're doing marketing, you want to do small targeted lists to make sure that you're not missing opportunities. You want to thoroughly work that list there before you go ahead and move on to more records. You want to keep that pipeline full. We're going to jump out of the business database now, and we're going to go to the new business database. Take a look at that for you. We'll go here. Again, same as the U.S. business, just single click on search. You have a quick search option. Now the nice thing about this one, tells you how recent that new business was added. You can do the last week up to 2 years. Now with this new business database, we keep all the records that we acquire in this database for 2 years. As we acquire them on a weekly basis, we go through a 7 to 11 week process with all those records to enhance and add all the data elements and features that you've seen in the full business profile in the existing U.S. business database. And once we can complete the telephone verification or get a large majority of that data, we move it over to the existing business database, which it'll still show up here, but you'll have the more in-depth refined profiles in the existing U.S. business database. We're going to do an advanced search. Again, you have the left-hand navigation. Like I said before, we'll use the major industry groups this time so you can see how that works. I want to know how many retail locations opened up by specific retail types within the state of Nebraska. So we're going to go through, we're going to do apparel, we're going to do general merchandise, and we're going to do home furnishings and furniture. We'll update our count. Then we're going to target by a city or state. So we're going to use Nebraska. Type that in. You can hit enter or single click on go. Click it, move it over to your selected box, update your counts. Then you have the ability to target same geos available here, map-based search, the area code or the phone number. You can also target by the particular type of filing. If it's a home-based business or a brick-and-mortar corporate location, like I said, type of filing. If it's a DBA, if they filed for an actual license or a sales tax permit, or filed for an LLC or an incorporation. You can see what kind of business filing it was, or target by that. Last but not least, you can define your date range. You can either use the calendar options and type in or select the dates you want, or you can use the drop-down. And I want to know in the last month how many retail locations by our criteria opened up in the state of Nebraska. Single click, update the count, and with all our selections in, we're going to view the results. As you can see here, it looks a lot like the summary page on the existing U.S. business database, but what you're going to see here is there's not a lot of phone numbers. Again, this is going to be based off if they filed for a license and utilities connects, where this starts out. And the profiles on these are very basic. So let's look at strictly GI Army surplus. As you can see, it does have an SIC code, which will be verified when we do the telephone verification. We do have a phone number. Tells you it's filed as a DBA, and it is a home-based business. Thing about that, we'll take this, again, through that 7 to 11 week process, enhance this data, and then it'll move over to the existing business database. Again, the benefit of this database is for somebody who's trying to do some types of studies to see new businesses opening in an area, or somebody that's trying to be the first one in the door to offer their products and services. You know, I use security companies all the time as an example for this. Reason why? You want to be the first one in there to offer what you have to help them protect their investment. Normally the first one that's in the door is generally, if they're decent and they have a good pitch, they're going to be the one that makes that sale. As you can see, it's pretty simple on the new business database how to run the search, just like the existing business. Use your left-hand navigation. Again, you can download and print out of this database also. We're going to take a look at the U.S. Consumer Database, U.S. Standard White Pages. Click on Search. You have a reverse lookup function if you happen to have a landline phone number or a name in a city and state, or you do the advanced search function. This is going to be pretty generic. I'm going to target by zip code this time. Type that in, update your count. Say I'm a landscaping company and I only target homes between 150 and 400,000. You can either click and move it over, or again, you can drag these down. We need that one. We'll update our count. Tells you how many is there. Then you just view your results. Again, there's a big blurb or warning up here that tells you these numbers are not scrubbed against the do not call list. And then here's your person's name, address information. So if you wanted to do a mailer, and again, you can download and print from this database. Pretty simple on how to run all these searches. If you're not familiar with who we are, is the largest compiler of both business and consumer data in the country. We started in 1972 and continued to grow. We do have a main office in Papillion, Nebraska. It uses a lot of different sources, and when we say we're a compiler, what we do is we get the information and we build it from the ground up for you to make sure that it's enhanced and as useful as possible for marketing purposes for you. We just had an independent audit ran on our database just to kind of see how accurate we were against our top 3 competitors, and just kind of give you a couple ideas of certain sources we use to compile our data from the ground up. We use, obviously the white pages. We use yellow pages. We have government reports, annual reports, business directories, public records. We use thousands of unique sources to go and try to ensure this data is as accurate as possible for you. Websites, another great resource that we use to acquire information. I mean, you go to a website, you can learn an awful lot about a particular company. Who's in charge, how long they've been around, exactly what they do, and more information to prepare yourself for either making a marketing pitch, applying for a job, or just in general learning more about that business. Just to kind of go over some of the data elements that they ran through with that independent audit. The accuracy level, we came in at a 95.4% accuracy. Our closest competitor, they weren't too far off. They were at a 94.2%. Next competitor there was 93%, and the last one that they looked at was at 88.8%. So we still were at the top there. Address level, again, having that full license to the USPS database, we came in at a 92.9%. Closest competitor, again, not too far off, 92.3%. Then our other competitors were at 91.2% and 91%. Phone number level, again, the telephone verification for our business database, really helpful to ensure that that phone number is accurate, because we have it listed, we try to call it, verify those businesses, then you're knowing that that number is accurate. 94.3% accuracy rating. The closest competitor from that was 92.6%. Next one was 92.3%, and then 90.2%. A couple of last data elements that we'll take a look at here. Primary industry. Basically, the federal government provides every business with 2 types of codes to differentiate exactly what they do. We provide an SIC code, which if you're not familiar with what that stands for, that's a Standard Industrial Classification Code. That was developed in 1937 by the U.S. government to be able to further define exactly what a business primary function is. They assign a 2- and 4-digit to all businesses. A step further, and we apply an additional 2-digit for a 6-digit code to further define exactly what a business's primary function is. The next type of code that the U.S. government gives every business, and this is mostly used by federal statistical agencies for more study purposes, is a NAICS code. That's a North American Industry Classification System code. That code right there is starting to be more popular all over the world for being able to target particular types of businesses. In the NAICS, again, like the SIC, they provide a 2-, 4-, and 6-digit NAICS by the federal government, added an additional 2 digits to further refine, and we give you an 8-digit NAICS code. Primary industry accuracy rating, we came in at 89.6%. Our closest competitor at that point was 78%. Next one, 73.9%. And the last competitor they ran against us was 65.9% accurate. Contact name, again, telephone verification. The other sources we use to compile this data come in at 88%. Closest competitor there, 82%. Next one, 77.4%. And finally, the last one, 74.3%. Employee size, knowing exactly how many employees are at a location. Again, the annual filings and the business reports are a great source to be able to get this information. Besides, when we do the telephone verification, we try to acquire that info also and verify it. We came in, this is kind of a lower number. Came in at a 66.7%. Our closest competitor there was 62.9%. But then when you go to the next step, the next one below that was 46%. And finally, the last competitor was 42.9%. So we were able to be the tops in all those data elements that they were taking a look at to ensure that our database is accurate and the most accurate in the industry. Doesn't mean that it's perfect. Obviously, there's going to be flaws. But the big thing about our database is we go through an 85% change on an annual basis throughout that database, whether it's one data element or an entire record is totally redone and updated completely by other information that we acquire.